Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action. I went to a school no one had ever heard of in Denver, Colorado, in a small suburb. I didn't go to Exeter or Andover. I didn't have college test prep. I just happened to be really nerdy and smart and have really good grades and good SAT scores. But someone came to Denver, Colorado to look for me. A Harvard recruiter flew to Denver, and I met up with her at the Village Inn restaurant and did a pre-interview to get to pull me into Harvard. I was pulled in, and the schools like Harvard and Yale that I got into affirmatively. Yes. And it was literally not saying we're going to take an unqualified person and put them in Harvard. Yes. We're going to take a very qualified person who we would never know existed and put them in Harvard. That's how I got there. That's how Ketanji got there. That's how Justice Jackson, I should say. Justice Jackson got there. It's how Clarence Thomas got there. But the minute I arrived from my majority black little town, Montbello in Denver, to Harvard, the first week or two that I was in class, my presence was questioned by white people. I was in this big conference class where some white students stood up and said, those students, the black students, they're only here because of affirmative action. It became a huge argument that we all ended up having. This was freshman year. I had never had my academic credentials questioned. I had never had anyone question whether I was intelligent until I got to Harvard. And it was a defining point of my experience there. It's why I really was one of the many reasons I was miserable there my freshman year. Yeah. You feel completely out of place and people keep telling you shouldn't be here.
That has got to be one of the most cringeworthy self-owns ever. The ultra-left MSNBC's Joy Reid is the very definition of self-unawareness. Did you hear what she just said? First, she actually admits that the only reason why she got into Harvard was because of affirmative action. Those were her very words, quote, I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action. Those were her exact words. She admits there on live television that affirmative action was the only reason why she got into Harvard. Now, that was bad enough. That was bad enough for Reid to get mercilessly mocked on Twitter. The Daily Caller responded, to the surprise of no one. Scott Adams wrote, Joy Reid accidentally has the best argument against affirmative action. Spitfire, Joy Reid is exactly why affirmative action needed to be abolished. And Twitchy Team wrote, Joyanne Reid confirms the least surprising revelation ever. So not only did Reid dig her own grave with that comment, admitting that affirmative action was the only reason why she got into Harvard, the least surprising revelation ever, but then she goes on to reprimand and rebuke her fellow Harvard students, those white students, for pointing out the truth. She was upset that the white students there called her out for precisely what she admitted, for getting accepted only because of affirmative action. She admits that affirmative action was the only reason why she was admitted to Harvard, and then she freaks out at the students who happened to point that out. I mean, what do you say to this? She's such a parody of repulsiveness. Now, if you think Joy Reid is confused in all this, she's not alone. Here's one Joe Biden, bike riding Biden, trying desperately to coherently explain why the Supreme Court was wrong to abolish affirmative action.
Some of your former Senate colleagues on the Judiciary Committee would go as far as to say that it's anti-democratic. Do you agree with that?
Well, you know, if I say it's anti-democratic, then it gets
in a lot of trouble.
No, but it is. Its value system is different, and its respect for institutions is different, and in that sense, it is not as embracing of all. What I think the Constitution says, we hold these truths to be self. All men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator. It's a uniqueness of America. We never fully lived up to it. We never walked away from it. And this court seems to say that no, that's not always the case. The idea there's no right of privacy in the Constitution, giving states power that we fought a war over in 1860. I just think it's. This is not your father's Republican Party.
I'll be back.
No, it's not he will be back, gang. He is back, gang. It is time to celebrate the great return. by clicking on that link below and getting your very own Trumpinator 2024 bobblehead in preparation for Donald Trump's glorious reascendance to the United States presidency. I've got mine, gang. It's absolutely awesome. I keep it right here on my desk. This collectible bobblehead from Proud Patriots is made with the highest quality material and really is a must-have for any Trump fan who wants to send some energy towards what's shaping up to be the most glorious political comeback in history. Now, don't wait. There are just a limited number of these collectibles, and you certainly don't want to be paying way more later on in eBay from someone who bought one now. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link below right now and show your support for Trump 2024 today. What a bumbling, incoherent clown. I mean, did you catch it? There were two slip-ups there. What was the first one? According to Biden, the Constitution says we hold these truths to be self-evident. Does it? Does it now? Does the Constitution say we hold these? Of course not. That's the Declaration of Independence. And last I looked, secondly, we didn't fight a war over all this in 1960. I mean, the guy's just cognitively gone. But the legacy media doesn't care. No one cares. Not what. Can you imagine Trump saying these things? What the reaction would be on the front pages? But despite all of that, right, just think of the incoherence of the argument. Just think of it. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are what? Created what? Equal. The Supreme Court's decision to abolish affirmative action protected and defended that very guarantee. That's the whole point of the decision. The decision is overturning reverse discrimination. My namesake, Jonathan Turley, professor of law at George Washington University, pointed out the justices enforced what they saw as the self-evident guarantee referenced in the Declaration and later protected in the 14th Amendment. The court reaffirmed unequivocally that all men and women are indeed created equal and will be treated equally in both education and employment. And Biden and Reid weren't alone in spouting their rank absurdities. Whoopi Goldberg, the borderline illiterate, opened up her mouth and said this.
The Supreme Court has upset a 45-year precedent, ruling it unconstitutional for universities to consider race in admissions. Now, the 14th Amendment is supposed to promise equal protection. But if everyone was actually treated equally, we wouldn't have had to put in affirmative action. So, when you have a justice who says something as ridiculous as "I don't get it," right, it just makes a kid, an Asian kid, a Native American kid, a black kid, feel like you don't matter. Right. Like you don't understand why my struggle is hard, or your struggle, or your struggle. You know, is this leading to no women in colleges soon?
So according to the woke, liberal, ill logic of Whoopi Goldberg, getting rid of affirmative action means that we're headed to no more women in colleges soon. Soon. It's not just a matter of us heading towards a future where there'll no longer be women in college, but we're now heading towards that future soon. Lightning speed, man. And I'm sorry, I just have to ask, I mean, given this is Whoopi, right? Hey, Whoopi, what precisely is a woman? You seem so confident in your assertion there, so perhaps you could actually define what a woman is? Yeah, no one here is holding their breath. That's for sure. Once again, I mean, what do you say to this, gang? What do you say? The whole point of the Supreme Court ruling was an outright rejection of discrimination in college admissions. That's the whole point. The point was to reject discrimination, Whoopi. How on earth can you even remotely come to the conclusion that a ruling rejecting discrimination upholds and enforces it? Actually, there's only one way if you think about it. And that's if you try to make the insane argument, like these woke illiterates are trying to do, that racial discrimination can only be done away with by embracing and employing it. That's basically what Biden and Reid and Goldberg are all doing their best to argue. The only way we can protect people from racial discrimination is by continuing to racially discriminate. The court made it absolutely clear there's no way around this. Affirmative action is reverse discrimination. Affirmative action entails the refusal to accept or hire a person based on their race or ethnicity. There's no way around this. If someone is going to be accepted or hired on the basis of their race, that necessitates the rejection of someone who is not of that race, such that that person is rejected because they are the wrong race. Again, the court made it absolutely clear there's no way around this. Affirmative action is reverse discrimination. And these woke clowns are actually doing their best to make this self-refuting argument that the only way to protect people from discrimination is to discriminate. I mean, it's beyond absurd. But of course, these are the very people who argue that the only way to protect democracy is to overturn it. So we shouldn't be surprised. But once again, the woke left gets an L. They are losers. People have had it with the woke left, I mean, across the board, which means that their losing streak is just getting started. Hey, gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.